we call the Belarus 8+100 cross-party forum. We know the situation in Belarus. The regime is acting very brutally, and parties are forbidden. But European sister parties recognize you and welcome here in the heart of the Europe, in Brussels. And we would like to express our support for democratic forces in Belarus. And today we discuss the different issue. And to start this, our conference, I would like also to give the floor to the Anatoly Libetska, and then we have the address from our leaders, please.
Вітанні шановному господарству. Я хочу повіншувати усіх нас з тим, що форум 8+100 став реальністю. І викажу сподівання з самого початку, що цей форум стане сталадзейним. А зараз маю гонор представити слово элект-президент Беларуси Святлане Тихановской. Яна передае свае вітанні усім нам. У мяне была з ёй жывая камунікацыя. Яна вельмі хацела быць фізічна тут. Але зараз візіт вельмі важны ў Вашынгтон, дзе пачынаецца стратэгічны дыялог ЗША-Беларусь. І таму яна звяртаецца да ўдзельнікаў сённяшняга форуму праз онлайн-формат. Тому вітаем Святлану Тихановскую, элект-президентка Республики Беларусь.
Dear colleagues, dear friends of Belarus.
Ну, это Вашингтон далеко. Спадзяемся, што гэта не хакерская атака.
An honor to greet you all here in this truly unique event, where Belarusian political parties meet European counterparts. We might have different political views, ideologies, but we all share the same values and the same vision: prosperous and democratic Europe. Europe that includes Belarus, Moldova, and Ukraine. This meeting also sends a powerful message to all those who suffer in the regime's prison cells, including members of banned Belarusian political parties. You are not alone. Your European comrades and colleagues remember you and care about you. In Belarus, the fight for democracy unites representatives of all political parties, centrists, left or right. We all understand that without democracy, there is no sense to discuss political differences. First, we have to dismantle the criminal regime, and only then we will be debating in democratic parliament about policies, not the vice versa. We all understand that Belarus can be truly free and independent only within the European Union. I know it will take time, but we can prepare for this already now. As EU discuss the accession of Moldova and Ukraine, is the perfect time to discuss the European perspective for Belarus too. And I hope this will be the part of your conversation today. Because without democratic Belarus, as well as without Ukraine, Europe will never be safe, and the European project will never be complete. We believe in European Union from Lisbon to Vitebsk, Luhansk, Tbilisi, and Chisinau. I also ask you to discuss today how to bring Lukashenko's regime to account for crimes against humanity, for abduction of Ukrainian children, for crime of aggression. In contrast to governments, parliamentarians can call things by their names. Lukashenko is a criminal, not the president. Belarusians are not the regime, and Belarus is not Russia. And I'm grateful to my dear friend Roberta Metsola for her full-hearted support of our cause and for this opportunity to hold the forum at the European Parliament. I greet all the long-time friends of democratic Belarus: Piotras Auštrevičius, Anna Fatiga, Andrzej Galitsky, Andrius Kubilius, Miriam Lexman, Jozas Olikas, Viola von Kramon, and others. But I'm also very excited about so many new participants. It's a good sign. The support for democratic Belarus is widening and growing stronger. So thank you all very much. Long live Europe. Long live Belarus.
Thank you, Svetlana Tsikhanovskaya. Now we have the address from our President of European Parliament, Roberta Metsola. Please.
Dear Svetlana, dear representatives of the Belarusian Democratic Opposition, dear colleagues, it is an honor to welcome you to the European Parliament. I am proud that this cross-party forum with representatives from different Belarusian democratic forces is hosted in our House of Democracy, where dialogue, cooperation, and finding compromises are of essence. We stand with you and oppose to dictatorship that kills a people's democratic will. Despite decades of authoritarian rule and systematic repression, the people of Belarus battle relentlessly for a life of freedom and liberty. This cannot be forgotten, especially in this moment of global instability. The underlying values of respect for human dignity and rights, freedom, democracy, equality, and the rule of law are anchors that unite us Europeans. Yet, on our shared continent, the people of Belarus are still denied of all that. Your people live under a regime of intimidation and of threats, where people are thrown into prison on a whim, where lawyers are stripped of their licenses without reason, where media outlets are censored, where NGOs are blocked from doing their job, where over 1,500 political opponents are still in prison, where many are pushed to live in exile, stripped of their citizenship and convicted in absentia. Belarus's essence is inherently European, embedded in its values, culture, and aspiration for a better future. Its struggle resonates with that of countless Europeans throughout history. That is why the European Parliament wholeheartedly supports the Belarusian democratic forces and civil society. And this is why our door will always remain open to all those European states that look to Europe as their home. That includes Belarus once it becomes democratic, free, and independent. A free and democratic Belarus is crucial for peace and security in Europe, and it is the only way we can charter a way forward that guarantees the peaceful future. I wish you a constructive exchange, with thanks to fellow members of this House for organizing this cross-party forum. I resolutely stand by your work and the democratic freedom for Belarus.
Дякую, Роберта, дякую, Світлана. А зараз Йозас Олікас, керівник делегації по Білорусі Європейського парламенту і великий сябар демократичної Нової Білорусі.
Дякую, Анатолій. Now we try to reach the gender balance. The lady started and we try to, as usual in European Parliament. Dear friends, dear colleagues, let me bid you all a warm welcome to this first session of the 8+100 Cross-Party Forum that brings together today representatives of Belarus, democratic forces, and EU-based sister parties. The fact that so many political actors from diverse horizons replies positively to our call illustrated two fundamental facts. First, Belarus remained very high on our agenda. And second, there's a consensus across all our political spectrum to stand with the Belarusian democratic forces for as long as it takes to help Belarus fulfill the aspiration to live in free, independent, sovereign, and modern European democracy. This political consensus is of the utmost importance. As Lithuanian who experienced repression, then crumbling and fall of the Soviet Empire, the democratic transition, and finally the accession to the EU, I know it by experience. No matter our political differences, they pale in comparison with the greater good of our country. When it comes to Belarus, must speak with one voice and establish a well-structured perennial platform for our cooperation and dialogue. The legitimate ruler of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, is not losing any time. He has already scheduled the next parliamentary election on 25th February next year. After 4 years of all-out repression, his brutal regime has been preparing itself for this election. Lukashenko Siloviki writes end of November against apartments of key figures of the Belarusian pro-democratic forces and their families. And then they announced the seizures of properties and other assets. They aimed at intimidating potential political opponents in the run-up to the election. Only 4 political parties, so-called political parties, have been registered in Belarus and will be allowed to present candidates. All of them, of course, support Lukashenko's regime. Yet Lukashenko is not as strong as it seems. Russia's financial and political support is essential for its survival, and the Kremlin is facing itself great difficulties in Ukraine. Western sanctions are having an impact slowly but surely. The Belarusian population discontent is growing and cracks have appeared in the nomenclature. In the face of adversity, we are European and Belarusian political parties must form a common front against the regime and develop our strategy in view of election. Beyond that, we must find a common strategy towards democratic Belarus and its integration into Euro-Atlantic space. In the meantime, we must also reflect on how to elevate the suffering of the political prisoners and ensure their release. All these topics will be addressed during our successive panel discussion. I wish you a fruitful exchange of opinions and all success for this conference. Thank you very much.
Ačiū labai. Мы рухаемся далей. Дякую, Йозас. Обозначу і стратегічні мети, і задачі, і контент нашої сьогоднішньої дискусії. А зараз для вітання передаємо наше слово Педро Маркусу, віце-президенту соціал-демократичної групи. Коли ласка.
Yes, thank you. I also want to welcome you all to the European Parliament. I would like to thank all my colleagues that organized this forum, with the democratic opposition of Belarus. I want to compliment Svetlana for the enduring capacity she has had to represent, in a sense, in the exterior, this opposition, but I want to compliment all of you in the room, the ones that have been on the ground really with a lot of suffering, with a lot of energy and courage, taking this fight for a democratic Belarus forward. I want to thank Joseph Olekas as chair of this delegation to Belarus, but all my colleagues that are more involved in the work with you for the continuous support to Belarus, to democratic Belarus here in the European Parliament. This forum is an example of how different political forces can indeed unite if they have a common goal. In this case, it's free, democratic, and prosperous Belarus. We, from the side of the progressives here in the European Parliament, we have tried to be at the forefront always of these contacts with different democratic, pro-democratic political parties in Belarus and their European partners, of course. We want to show the regime that even if Lukashenko banned the democratic political parties, there's still force, there's still will on the ground, and you exist and you continue to work to advocate for the interest of the Belarusian people. And we are here to show that also from Europe, from Brussels to Belarus. I am happy that the European Parliament is playing this active part in the process, and very happy that even our sister parties, the Belarus Social Democratic Party, Hromada, and Narodna Hromada, they recently became observers of our Party of the European Socialists. But of course, for us that's important, but it's important that all the democratic opposition can unite and can gather in a moment of this nature. Belarusian parties are very right to initiate a discussion about the future of Belarus after the fall of the regime, because this regime will fall. We always will support the democratic forces in Belarus. But we also have to discuss the present, not only the future. We need to emphasize the situation of the political prisoners in Belarus. We need to emphasize and point the sham elections that are planned by Lukashenko for February, as Josef already referred. We will never recognize the results of such elections, and that must be a clear message also of this gathering. So my message to all of you and from the progressives in the European Parliament is be brave, maintain the fight for democracy. Europe, we could see here from the institutions, from Brussels, we could see clearly that what happened first in Belarus in the presidential elections was just an episode in the global appetite of Putin and his surrogates to control the region that is closest to our borders. They will not let go, but we will also not stop supporting you for the fight for democracy. Thank you and stay strong.
Thank you, Pedro, for your words. And now I would like to give the floor to European umbrella party representative, external relations director at the EPP headquarters, Mr. Patrick Voller. Please, the floor is yours.
Dear President Roberta Metsola, we are thankful that we are here in her house and we appreciate her video message. Dear President-elect Mrs. Tikhanovskaya, also here with us in a video message which was very important. Dear leaders of the Belarusian political parties, dear colleagues and friends of a free and democratic European Belarus, dear colleagues and friends of PES, SD, ECR and Greens united in this one topic for a free Belarus. And Anatol, also thank you for having me, and I think you are also the mastermind behind this idea. 8+100 has nothing to do with age, but it means like these 8 Belarus parties are reaching out to 100 others or more European sister parties in a united cause. First of all, I would like to honor this new cross-party initiative which supports the democratic political parties of Belarus. And I would like to thank also our EPP Vice President Halicki and his team Blazaj, as I saw before, and in our EPP team, Galina Fomachenko, who is pushing very much this topic that we don't forget and put Belarus very high on our EPP political agenda. As you can see here in the room, friends of a democratic Belarus are represented in a variety of political families in Europe. And we all have one goal, namely a free, democratic European Belarus, which shall become one day, hopefully sooner than later, part of our united Europe. In the European People's Party, we strongly believe this day will come. However, it demands a lot of work, cooperation, and coordination and joint efforts. The political party landscape in Belarus is facing the most challenging time since Belarusian independence. In democratic societies, political parties provide a platform for diverse voices, different ideologies, ensuring representation of various interests. They address social challenges, promote economic growth, social welfare, and encourage, of course, citizen participation in the decision-making process. Unfortunately, today, Belarus is a captured authoritarian state with a criminal regime, and political parties cannot operate within Belarus. Opposition parties face not only arbitrary rejection, but also severe persecution. 2023 was marked by forced liquidation of political opposition parties. They cannot operate freely inside the country and are forced to operate from abroad. Here in the EU, we do not know what it means not to be able to conduct your political work. We really admire your strength, your determination, and your strong conviction. We appreciate the way your parties develop, despite all the pressure and harassment which all of you are facing in your daily political, but also personal life. The victory of Svetlana Tikhanovskaya at the last elections was achieved thanks to a joint effort of political parties of Belarus and Belarusian society. You have to continue to build up on this achievement and to develop a strong political party landscape supporting a democratic leader of Belarus. In this situation, it is extremely important that we give you our hand. So this is the idea of the 8+100. We have to support the political party development of Belarus. Within our political family, we proudly count 3 member parties from Belarus: the United Civic Party, Anatol sitting next to me, the Christian Democrats, Vitaly Rumashevsky, I could greet before, and the Movement for Freedom, Juras also among us, which together transformed into a center-right coalition. That has been a very good example of unity, coordination, and cooperation, despite provocations and harassment which authorities used against them. And I personally remember several years ago when it was still possible, we were invited by our 3 parties to Minsk, also with Rangel in January, a very cold winter. We tried to help you in campaigning on the streets, and we saw also personally how difficult already at that time your political life was. Now we need the mobilization of all democratic forces of Belarus more than ever. This forum today is an important attempt of such cooperation, as well as a bridge to the European political sister parties. Today, I'm looking forward to discussing how we can strengthen our cooperation. How do you see the possibility and what the next elections in Belarus might bring, and what kind of role political parties can play today and participate in any political process inside or outside the country? Besides that, one of the most important issues which we never can forget is the high number of political prisoners in Belarus, and President Metsola mentioned it before, over 1,500, and among them are many of our political family members. And at our last EPP political assembly, we adopted here in the European Parliament a resolution asking for the immediate release of Pavel Severinets, Mikolai Kozlu, and Artsem Liabetka, and other political prisoners. We have to continue to support them and their families as long as they stay in prison. We believe that Belarus has a democratic European future, and the dictatorship cannot persist much longer in a society where people like you are ready to fight for freedom of their country. I'm just coming this morning from the European Prayer Breakfast. This is also a cross-party event and a cross-faith event, and also this forum today should give us hope that we are united in values. And on behalf of our political family, I would like to assure you that the European People's Party will be attentively following the developments and will continue to raise its voice until Belarus will become free and democratic. Živia Belarus!
Дякую, Патрик. Я хотел бы звернуть вашу увагу, что вот у першай панельнай дыскусіі у нас выступоўцы, якія говорять не толькі сваю асабістую пазіцыю, але і пазіцыю тых чальцоў парасонавых арганізацый, якія яны прадстаўляюць. Голас Патрика — гэта яшчэ голас 49 партый, пастаянных чальцоў Еўрапейскай народнай партыі. Я з задавальненнем перадаю слово для вітання прадстаўніку яшчэ адной парасонавай арганізацыі сацыял-дэмакратычнай супольнасці, спадарні Сарван Дерен, намесніца генеральнага сакратара партыі еўрапейскіх сацыялістаў. Калі ласка.
Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, members of the Belarusian civil society and political parties, members of the European Parliament, organizers of the forum, thank you for the opportunity to address you today on behalf of the Party of European Socialists and Social Democrats. It's an honor to sit before you as we collectively advocate for the fundamental principles of democracy, human rights and freedom in the face of the ongoing repression in Belarus. As we gather here, we cannot ignore the gravity of the situation that has unfolded in Belarus since the contested elections of 2020. As mentioned before, over 1,500 people are still unjustly jailed by the Lukashenko regime. Many more have been displaced out of fear for their lives and their loved ones. The oppression faced by the Belarusian people is a stark reminder of the importance of defending democratic values and supporting those who courageously stand up against authoritarianism. Our collective response to the situation in Belarus must be unequivocal in its condemnation of Lukashenko's regime and steadfast in its support for the forces of democracy that are working tirelessly for change. The members of the Party of European Socialists and Social Democrats have taken concrete steps to support the struggle of the Belarusian people. Welcoming both Hramada and Narodjana Hramada as observer parties in the PES family was a clear signal that we recognize the importance of a united front against authoritarianism in Europe. These parties represent the hopes and aspirations of countless Belarusians who yearn for a future built on democratic principles. In September, past President Stefan Löfven and our Secretary General Giacomo Filibeck were proudly in Stockholm to see the leader of the democratic opposition in Belarus, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, awarded the Anna Lindh Prize. Anna Lindh Prize recognizes individuals fighting for indifference, prejudice, oppression, and injustices. Svetlana Tikhanovskaya is a worthy winner. She is a remarkable leader whose unwavering courage and dedication to the cause of democracy inspires us all. And we're honored that she was able to join us at our recent Congress in Malacca to speak to our political family about that fight. Svetlana, like many others, has become a symbol of resilience in the face of adversity. We commend her bravery and stand in solidarity with her and all those who continue to defend the right of the Belarusian people. Our support for a free and democratic Belarus is not just a political stance. It's a commitment to the universal values of freedom, justice, and human dignity that the European Union embodies. We understand the sacrifices that the Belarusian people are making daily, and we recognize the courage it takes to demand change in the face of a repressive regime. As we move forward, let us reaffirm our commitment to supporting the Belarusian people and the democratic forces to strive for a better future. Let us collectively to amplify the calls for justice and freedom. The road ahead may be challenging, but the aspiration of the Belarusian people for a free, democratic state must fuel our determination. In conclusion, let me assure you that the Party of European Socialists and Democrats stands firmly with the Belarusian people. We will continue to advocate their rights, support democratic forces, and work towards a day when Belarus can truly flourish as a free nation and pursue its European aspirations. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Dear colleagues, thank you all plenary speakers. And now I would like to invite the next podium, on the podium here for the next discussion, political prisoners in Belarus, solidarity and release. Mrs. Viola von Kramer Taubadel from the Greens, Mrs. Hanna Krauchanka from the Razam, Mr. Udo Bullman, chair of the DROI Committee and Socialist Democrats and Progressive Alliance, Mr. Yevgeny Vilsky, Народная Громада, and Mrs. Anna Fotiga, European Conservatives and Reformists. Please take the floor.
So good morning from the first panel, or second panel, as you would like to see it. Thanks a lot for everyone attending here in the room or online. Thanks to especially our guest from Warsaw, Vilnius, and other capitals. I've learned from Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya not to call you opposition anymore, because, of course, you won the last election, so it's not the opposition. That is one thing I took away. Now we would like to speak about the political prisoners, the situation of political prisoners. Of many we have not heard for many years and weeks. I have spoken to many of the relatives, of the friends of political prisoners, and the situation is without any words. And every time I listen to relatives and friends and close advisors, I'm a little bit left without a concrete opportunity how to help and how to support. And that's why I'm very glad that we have a couple of great, knowledgeable, competent people who might enlighten all of us a bit how to deal with this topic, what to do in the civil society, in the capitals, in the parliaments, in the economical sphere. And I'm very glad to welcome today. I start with the person on my right hand, Udo Bullman. He's the chair of our subcommittee on human rights, and we were recently together in Ukraine. Very welcome here on our panel, dear Udo. Then to my left, Hanna Krauchanka. She is now based in Warsaw from the very important organization Razam, and she can tell us more about what her activities in particular are. Then we have Yevgeny Vilsky from Narodna Gромада, and also here I think it would be good if you explain a little bit more in detail what the organization is about and what your activities are on the political prisoner level, and of course everyone knows her, Anna Fortiga, my esteemed colleague from ECR here in the Parliament. We work very closely together on many issues, be it on Georgia, be it on Ukraine, also Belarus and many other topics. So also a big and warm welcome to you, Anna. Thanks for being here. So maybe I would start, if you don't mind, from your observation even, I mean, give us a little bit of a framework what the European Parliament has done so far and what the European Parliament can do, and where do you see maybe more political initiatives needed, maybe for the next 5 years, but also from national parliaments. What would be, from your observation, necessary to do here? Please, Udo.
Thanks so much, Viola, and welcome, dear friends, dear colleagues here in the European Parliament. It's out of discussion that Belarus is facing the darkest period of its history since it gained independence from the Soviet Union in 1991. The human rights situation is disastrous, and of course it's our primary duty to take care of human rights defenders, of civil society needs, media personnel, and people subjected to political prosecution, arbitrary detention, harassment, and inhuman and degrading treatment only for exercising their individual and collective freedom. We, as the subcommittee for human rights, together with the delegation for relations with Belarus, are regularly monitoring the situation. We came together to creating this platform on which we are working. And of course, we want today to reaffirm that the European Parliament stands in strong solidarity with the Belarusian people, and particularly with all political prisoners and with their families. But of course, this is not enough. Hope is always about taking action. So where are the options? In what kind of directions we can work? Sanctions have to be an issue. And we need to discuss further sanctions to those responsible for the repression and fighting against their impunity. This is essential. We have to achieve accountability for perpetrators of grave human rights violations and justice for their victims. We need to discuss a legal framework and the respective tools to investigate and prosecute crimes committed by the Belarusian regime and the possible role international institutions can play. There's a number of international avenues, monitoring mechanisms for bringing perpetrators of gross human rights violations to justice. Let me mention a few ones, namely the International Criminal Court, special hybrid courts, ad hoc tribunals, and universal jurisdiction. Our platform is continuing its work liaising with all stakeholders from Belarus, primarily civil society organizations and human rights defenders, as well as international actors. It needs the help of the Belarusian citizens who play a crucial role by collecting evidence of human rights violations in their country. Let me conclude by paying tribute to them and recalling our support to all the brave Belarusians who are fighting for a sovereign, peaceful, and democratic Belarus.
Well, yes, the question of accountability and legal framework is the first thing, of course, we should work on while we try to find a solution here on Ukraine, I think Belarus, it is a little bit, how to say, put aside, and not too much attention is on those who were the first ones fight against the Russian regime and the Russian dictatorship. And maybe, Hanna, you can tell us a little bit more. You are very close to those who are fighting in the country, outside of the country, the relatives of the political prisoners. What's from your observation from the civil society, what's needed to improve the situation for political prisoners, but also for other citizens in Belarus?
Да, прежде всего хотела бы сказать спасибо за вообще возможность говорить о тех проблемах, которые болят нам, и просто как белорусам. Потому что сегодняшняя ситуация в Беларуси такова. На сегодняшний день у нас 1674 политзаключенных, которые находятся в тюрьме, 1200 уже вышли. Лидеры нашей партии получили сроки 8, 11, 14 лет. Двое из них в прошлом году были вынуждены, после изменения условий содержания, были госпитализированы. Марии Колесниковой провели операцию. Мы последних полгода с Марией больше 9 месяцев не знаем, что вообще с ними, живы ли они. Я понимаю, что такая же ситуация во многих партиях, с лидерами многих партий. И это просто текущая ситуация. И, к сожалению, репрессии не прекращались на неделю, никакие элементы давления не срабатывали и не прекращали данные репрессии. Они идут постоянно. Вы сейчас видите на экранах QR-код. Это наш проект «Политзек.ми», в котором мы как раз фиксируем актуальные списки, в том числе он имеет свои социальные сети, где мы публикуем еженедельные дайджесты на английском языке, что происходит с политическими заключенными в Беларуси. Что говоря про поддержку и про то, как мы справляемся с этим кризисом, чтобы просто посчитать, сколько нам нужно денег условно на передачи для политических заключенных, это порядка 9 миллионов. Мы говорим только о передачах, которые помогают людям хотя бы питаться и получать необходимое количество витамин. Мы не говорим про услуги адвокатов, мы не говорим про штрафы, которые нужно оплачивать, иначе вас конфискуют имущество, а также из-за того, что большинство политзаключенных — это мужчины, это кормители своих семей. И семьи сейчас, в том числе их жены и матери, платят эти самые 9 миллионов, потому что диаспора, к сожалению, не может себе позволить такую поддержку, даже в таком элементарном вопросе, как передачи. Поэтому с этой частью мы, безусловно, не справляемся. С чем же еще мы не справляемся? На данный момент, опять же, нашей инициативой создан гуманитарный список, в котором находится более 60 человек. Это 60 человек, у которых потеря здоровья критическая. Чтобы вы понимали, приведу несколько кейсов, чтобы не быть голословной. Василий Береснев, у него единственная почка, и она отказала, ему нужна срочная пересадка. Так как он находится в заключении, этой пересадки не происходит. Ксения Луцкина, у нее опухоль мозга, и больше года она 3 раза в день получает обезболивающие уколы, также не подвергается лечению, потому что находится в заключении. Владимир Гурман после содержания в ШИЗО практически полностью потерял свое зрение, ему нужна тоже экстренная госпитализация. Таких людей более 60. Параллельно мы видим кейсы освобождения преждевременных, если так можно сказать, политзаключенных, и все они организованы не политическими силами, они организованы благодаря дипломатам западных государств, не только, и благодаря активистам, провластным активистам, которые зарабатывают свой рейтинг. На нашем счету, как демократических сил, нет ни одного освобожденного политзаключенного. При этом 3 мы уже потеряли. Они мертвы, потому что не выдержали тех условий, которые там были. Я думаю, этот список будет увеличиваться просто из-за времени, потому что политический кризис у нас не имеет быстрого разрешения, мы не видим этого быстрого разрешения, а с людьми, люди имеют ограниченный ресурс на свое здоровье. Что же мы можем попросить вас, и попросить вас как людей, которые важна эта проблема, разделяют наши ценности, ценности человеческой жизни. Первое, самое простое, вы можете стать крестными политзаключенных, опять же, по этому QR-коду. Это прямая и самая простая поддержка родных политзаключенных. Для них это большая поддержка моральная, потому что это внимание, они понимают, что им не все равно. Достаточно сложно даже людям в Беларуси и небезопасно выражать поддержку даже родным политзаключенных. Вторая часть — это открытие гуманитарного трека и отделение его от политического. О чем мы говорим? Это использование всех формальных и неформальных контактов для доставания этих людей. К сожалению, их здоровье и их жизнь сейчас находятся в огромном риске, и мы каждый месяц рискуем увеличивать список из 3 человек до практически бесконечности, потому что репрессии продолжаются. Нам нужно, чтобы чтобы вы помогли нам спасти эти жизни. Третье — это посольство, которое находится на территории Республики Беларусь. Сейчас это единственный, иногда бывает, канал безопасной эвакуации гражданских активистов из страны и стабильный канал связи с активистами внутри и с режимом. Это хороший способ мониторинга ситуации внутри страны, потому что правозащитникам также тяжело это делать, и режим постоянно работает над обрезанием этих самых каналов. И последнее — это мобильность самих белорусов, потому что, опять-таки, эвакуация напрямую завязана на мобильности. Мы имеем сейчас с Польшей только один погранпереход, в котором переход составляет несколько часов. При эвакуации активистов это огромная проблема. Поэтому вопрос мобильности остается открытым, и мы просим о том, чтобы эти коридоры гуманитарные сохранялись, чтобы визы могли выдаваться, были безопасны, потому что репрессии происходят волнами, эвакуация людей происходит также волнами. От этого зависит правда жизни людей. Я прошу вас о той солидарности, которую мы можем просить только у вас. Мы начинали с того, что беспокоились и обозначали свои главные ценности — человеческую жизнь. Так давайте не будем изменять этому принципу. Дякую.
Many thanks, Hannah, for the concrete list of things we can do, we can support, we can donate money, we can address the political prisoners, we can put pressure on our embassies, and so on and so forth. And of course, we can also make sure that people who are under pressure find refuge in our member states as soon as possible. So yes, you're absolutely right. There's a lot we can do, that people are not forgotten and that they don't feel that they're forgotten. And many of us have are godfathers and godmothers, so to say, for some of the political prisoners, and we definitely financially support them. We definitely make sure they are not forgotten, but we always feel this is not enough. But thanks a lot for the concrete measures. So, Yevgeny, what is on your agenda? Please enlighten us a bit. What from your perspective is needed?
Тема политзаключенных одна из самых тяжелых для нас. Партия «Народная громада» всегда считала основными направлениями своей работы это тему политзаключенных и поддержку белорусских добровольцев в Украине, которые воюют сейчас там. Но сегодня я хочу говорить о политзаключенных на примере одного человека, чтобы конкретизировать эту тему. Сегодня ровно 300 дней, как нет информации о лидере нашей партии Николае Статкевиче. Он уже больше 3,5 лет находится в заключении в камере одиночки. В последний год и 4 месяца эта камера размером 1 метр на 3 или штрафной изолятор. 23 ноября этого года редактор информационного ресурса «Хартия» Наталья Радина сделала заявление, что у нее есть информация, что Николая Статкевича нет в живых. И потребовал от белорусских властей показать его. Нам не хочется верить этой информации, но она может быть правдой. Уже больше 10 месяцев мы ничего не имеем, никакой информации о политике. Он был изолирован самым первым из всех тех, которые сейчас изолированы. К нему нет доступа адвоката, нет доступа жены, нет ни малейшей информации. Власти просто скрывают его. В такой ситуации, когда Светлана Тихановская заявила о таком же положении ее мужа, Сергея Тихановского государственное телевидение показало. Хотя в наше время мы понимаем, что показ на государственном телевидении не может являться при современных технологиях каким-то доказательством. Но тем не менее реакция какая-то властей была. Статкевича никто не показывает. А Николай Статкевич – это знаковая фигура для Беларуси. Это белорусский Нельсон Мандела, лауреат премии Вилли Бранта и премии Европарламента за свободу мысли имени Андрея Сахарова, председатель партии «Народная громада», Он провел в белорусских тюрьмах в самых страшных условиях уже больше 10 лет. И сейчас находится в условиях одиночной камеры в самой страшной колонии Беларуси. Мы требуем от ответственных лиц Беларуси немедленно организовать встречу Николая Статкевича с его женой и опровергнуть или подтвердить информацию, касающуюся жизни и здоровья политики. Требуем показать всех политзаключенных, которые длительно находятся в ситуации инкоммуникада, и прекратить практику насильственной изоляции политзаключенных. Призываем международное сообщество потребовать от ответственных лиц Беларуси показать политика и организовать встречу Николая Статкевича с женой. Мы призываем разработать и начать международную кампанию по освобождению белорусских политических заключенных на примере конкретного человека, Николая Статкевича. Мы призываем международные правозащитные организации проявить солидарность, призвать к необходимости освободить всех, кто незаконно удерживается режимом, и добиваться прекращения насилия и пыток по отношению к людям, находящимся в тюрьме. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you so much, and thanks also to this little brochure or this leaflet. That is very helpful to see what we are speaking about and how serious it is. And as you said, one might not believe in what is the rumor or what is being shared that Mr. Nikolai Stevich might be already not alive. So the situation is, as you said, indeed very, very serious. Anna, we together fight in many cases for the rights, for the human rights in many countries. I think Belarus is it's an extraordinary difficult case. You are from Poland, you're a neighbor country. What is your main request, and what's, from your perspective, the most important things we need to do here, but also back in our home countries?
Thank you, Viola, and I also would like to welcome our, first and foremost, our Belarusian friends here to the European Parliament, friends of a variety of political backgrounds, but that is extremely important to stay united in this case. To answer you, Viola, I would say that we should continue from the angle of European Parliament what we do, but simply more and more frequent. I know it is. It may be very difficult, but first and foremost for international community. And here I speak really from my experience, because in just 1 week we commemorate anniversary on 13th of December of martial law in Poland during communist time. At that time I was member of Polish opposition, simply employed in foreign department of Solidarność in Gdańsk. So I know that keeping things high in the agenda by all members of international community is of utmost importance, not only because of results, real results, but of keeping morale of the spirit of those who remain in the country, knowing that international world cares and is also extremely important, because remember that everything, illnesses, dispiriting of people comes from eventual perception of your combat, your fight, simply not seen, not noticed by international community. So here, this work is of utmost importance. Everything, media, documents, resolutions, of course, practical actions that were enumerated by our colleagues, but absolutely also exerting pressure, adequate pressure on the regime. And we have to remember that first, Lukashenko is a usurper, and rightly we give this title of president-elect to Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya. We have to keep it also very important and noticeable. So I really commend her role in international community. I commend the action by Belarusian society, people of Belarus, because we see this difference between Belarus and Russia, just speaking or noting remarks by Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya, because we stress that Belarus is Belarusian people simply intimidated by unwelcome, unaccepted, not elected regime that is accomplice, not also in a war of aggression against Ukraine, contrary to Belarusian people. And we know that Kalinowski regiment fighting on Belarusian side is emanation of the perception of people of Belarus who do not accept this kind of aggression. So that advocating this is also important. When I remember awful time under communist regimes in our bloc or within, of course, Soviet Union former Soviet Union was something different. But in our bloc, during martial law, that was harsh and extremely painful. Even at that time, International Red Cross was active and was allowed to see prisoners. So that is extremely, Viola, we have to extend our action to this. Also in terms of political parties, it is evident violence of international covenant on civil and political rights of people. So the banning political parties there are many tools. We know that even now in terms of Hamas held those Israelis held by Hamas, International Red Cross did not act properly, did not take its role. So we have to exert this pressure. And here is obvious role of the European Parliament to exert this. In many cases, I would say that, of course, TV and showing prisoners in TV may be important, although I know possibilities of contemporary technique, including artificial intelligence. And the best tool is old-fashioned visit of prisoners and allowing visit of prisoners by relevant international institutions that have to start acting. It's less feasible usually by representatives of political institutions, but obviously also we know that our respective diplomacies, embassies try to do what is possible, try to monitor court proceedings, because there are no courts there, no independent, of course, nothing like courts, because very frequently petty accusations are used simply to put political prisoners to prison. I would like to conclude.
Okay,
Sorry,
super. Yeah, then.
because I have some problems with my throat today, but there are many important actions. We here in the European Parliament send messages to prisons, and that is also very, very important. I acknowledge first and foremost all tools of pressure against the regime, not only individual sanctions, but also mirror sanctions that we promote here in the European Parliament, that refer to activity of Lukashenko regime. This regime tends to be financed by a very difficult relationship, difficult for us, but thank you. But we have to remember also that there are many actions taken by this regime to destabilize the collective West and countries including countries of European Union by using tools that are at its disposal under instigation of Kremlin, Putin's regime in Kremlin. So this very harsh behavior vis-à-vis opposition, trying to dismantle, and actually, of course, I support all calls for evacuation of prisoners that need humanitarian action, but I am afraid that one of aims of both Kremlin and Lukashenko is depopulation. So expelling all those who would like eventually to create independent, free and independent society within. So I must say that I personally, also basing on my experience, many Poles left the country. I had possibility to do this. I stay home, regardless to things and threats at that time. And I think that in order to really reform and have perspectives for your country, it's unfortunately, with our help, it is also the biggest role is within the country. Thank you.
Thank you for this. Actually, I want to open the floor, but since we have only 5 minutes, I have 2 questions for our Belarusian guest, maybe here, because 2 points were mentioned. The role of the international organization, and Anna has rightly said that the Red Cross completely failed. We knew this from Ukraine, we knew this from other countries, as you have mentioned, Hamas, the situation with the political prisoners of Israel there. But also on the sanction question, I don't know whether Hannah and Yevgeny, one of you might maybe give us your assessment on, first of all, what else we need to do to put more pressure on the Red Cross. I see this is extremely difficult, and they always come up with excuses. We heard this in other cases as well. What is your position here? And then maybe on sanctions, what from your perspective need to be done to put more economical pressure on Lukashenko here?
Первое, что точно нужно сказать, что вообще санкции и их эффект должен быть оценен и проанализирован, потому что у нас есть уже опыт трехлетнего введения, у нас достаточно мало анализа. Какие у нас есть, например, данные социологические? Бюрок, исследовательский центр, проводил опрос внутри Беларуси, поддерживают ли белорусы санкции. 60% не поддерживают санкции. Это связано с тем, что экономическая ситуация в Беларуси сильнее бьет на тех людей, которые в ней находятся. Безусловно, они бьют по режиму, но на людей тоже. Что касается персональных санкций, здесь мы тоже видим скорее недоработку, чем контроль. Почему? Потому что введение санкций занимает сильно больше времени, чем их обход. То есть примерно, чтобы обойти, переоформить свое имущество и так далее, нам говорили эксперты, для бизнеса, перестройки бизнеса нужно порядка полугода. Для введения персональных санкций нужно больше времени. И поэтому мы имеем кейсы, когда провластные бизнесмены приезжают, к примеру, в Польшу. Мы имеем кейсы, когда люди, присутствующие на тайной инаугурации Лукашенко, приезжают на концерт Бейонсе в Варшаву и открыто снимают про это ролики в Инстаграм. И мы, безусловно, должны проанализировать, что работает, что нет, проанализировать в том числе эффекты на Беларусь. И это очень важный фактор. Эффекты, которые оказываются на экономике Беларуси отрицательные, с легкостью компенсируются Российской Федерацией. От этого мы теряем еще больше свою независимость, попадаем в очень сложную ситуацию. Поэтому этот анализ должен производиться комплексно, не в разрезе только ЕС и Беларуси, но и включить в анализ уровень жизни людей. Это очень важно, он постоянно падает. И увеличение зависимости, в том числе очень важной зависимости от российского бизнеса. Потому что российский бизнес, который приходит, скупает бизнесы в Беларуси, дает рабочие места, дает нам мало шансов для пропаганды, либо для рассказывания европейской перспективы. Потому что работодатель есть работодатель.
Ну, партия «Народная громада» категорически не согласна с моим оппонентом, выступающим здесь. Во-первых, мы это проходили уже много раз. Через каждые выборы происходил арест политзаключенных, потом их выкуп, и круг начинал крутиться опять. Если мы становимся на эту тропу в очередной раз, это будет длиться до бесконечности. Санкции должны быть усиляться, не обращая внимания, что там с Россией происходит, как она влияет. Но санкции должны быть привязаны именно к вопросам политзаключенных. Еще ни разу санкции в Беларуси не были привязаны к политзаключенным. Именно за арест, за репрессии должны вводиться санкции. Персональные, электоральные. Еще до сих пор не введены санкции против Машенского, который организует производство в наших зонах. Спокойно человек гуляет и ничем не рискует. Да? То есть его каким-то образом выводят из этой зоны санкций. Конкретные санкции за политзаключенных. И почему мы говорим о 1500 заключенных? 1500 заключенных, 1200 выпущено, осталось 300. Это вообще непонятно о чем. В Беларуси в реальности от 8 до 10 тысяч политзаключенных, которых не хотят признавать правозащитные организации. Но это не говорит о том, что их нету. Их около 10 тысяч. И мы на это стыдливо закрываем глаза, потому что они не подпадают под параметры правозащитных организаций. Извините, позиция должна быть жесткая, Только отмена, выпуск всех политзаключенных, а потом переговоры каким-то с режимом, Спасибо за внимание.
Very clear words. Передам слово.
I'm sorry. My name is Vitaly Romashevsky, co-chairman Belarusian Christian Democracy, and I speak in Russian. I'm sorry, but когда мы говорим о санкциях, давайте будем реалисты. 3 года никаких серьезных санкций против Лукашенко. Никаких серьезных санкций против Лукашенко. Кто говорит о запрете транзита? Почему молчат? Потому что это выгодно. За транзитом стоит Китай, не только Лукашенко. Лукашенко получает от транзита большие деньги. Но я вам скажу, что происходит после того, как звучат слова о санкциях. И страны Европейского Союза уже ввели много санкций против простых белорусов. В Литве сегодня белорусские беженцы – самая дискриминируемая группа. Самая дискриминируемая группа. Визу невозможно получить для простых белорусов в Европейский Союз. Санкции сегодня Европейский Союз ввел против белорусских граждан. И в ответ на вот эти слова о необходимости санкций, как реагируют европейские политики и многие политики европейских стран? Они снова и снова вводят санкции против белорусского народа, который борется, продолжает бороться с режимом Лукашенко. У нас тысячи политзаключенных. Никто не знает точно их фамилию. Ни Тихановская, ни я, никто из демократических сил. Но для того, чтобы получить визу в Европейский Союз, визу родственникам тех, кто сидят, простым белорусам, нужно 10 рекомендаций из 10 офисов. Люди боятся сюда обращаться. Результаты уже есть. За этот год первый раз за 10 лет больше белорусов поехало учиться в Россию, чем в Европейский Союз. Знаете, что происходит? Чешское посольство не выдает визы белорусским студентам, даже те, которые поступили в чешские вузы. Об этом все молчат. Поэтому давайте, когда мы говорим о санкциях, я призываю, чтобы мы разделяли санкции против режима, которых практически нет, и действительно никогда еще не были введены за политзаключенных, и санкции, которые действуют против белорусского народа. Спасибо.
Very good point, and I'm afraid since we have set up this panel actually for the political prisoners, I think we need another panel, maybe it's on the agenda anyway, on sanctions, and especially what you all have said. I mean, to analyze the effectiveness or non-efficiency of sanctions, who's actually targeted, why ordinary people, why students don't get visa to Lithuania, Latvia, Czech Republic, but also to Germany, I'm afraid. So there is a big discrepancy of what we are saying and what we are actually doing, and you're absolutely right in criticizing that. I can't agree more. We have maybe room for one more comment or one more question, because I need to leave in 2-3 minutes. But if there's anyone in the room who would like to contribute, he or she is very welcome to do so right now. Yes, please, Hannah.
Да, я хотела бы сказать вам огромное спасибо, потому что из большего именно вы причина, по которой у нас есть возможность поддерживать политзаключенных из-за границы и говорить о них из-за границы. И спасибо вам большое за эту самую поддержку.
Yes.
Я бы хотела поддержать точку зрения, да, что санкции должны быть обязательно проанализированы. Это очень важный подход. Но здесь очень важно проанализировать и то, почему санкции, вот конкретно, как сказал Виталий за пару минут до этого, работают против белорусского населения сильнее, чем против населения России, например. Да? Вот просто поддержу тот поинт, что люди это сравнивают, они видят, они понимают, что даже россияне не имеют столько проблем сейчас для коммуникации с Европейским Союзом, с родственниками в Европе, как белорусы. То есть белорусы оказались в полнейшей изоляции, и это наша просто больная точка, с которой мы не знаем, что делать без вашей помощи. И, конечно, мы бы хотели, да, чтобы санкции работали и персонально, экономически, но после очень тщательного анализа. И может быть, взять лучшие практики наших коллег из других стран, которые показали эффективность работы над санкционными списками, чтобы это было сделано с учетом позиции оппозиции Беларуси. Спасибо.
No, absolutely. A very good point, and especially also in comparison with ordinary Russians, it's even harder for you to get a entering, and that is absolutely unfair. That goes without saying. Thanks a lot for mentioning that. Thanks to everyone who contributed so valuable to this topic. I have a long list of things we need to do and we need to improve. That is super helpful. Thank you, my dear colleagues who joined here today, and hopefully we have a next and another panel on the different issues which are so urgently needed for the people in Belarus. Thank you very much, and Żywe Belarus.
So, my dear friends, we are, excuse me, sorry. I know that you have many statements to record, many things to do, but now is time to come to the order. And let's start our work because we are a little bit late, but I will try to recover the time. I would like to say that we are in a very inspiring room. I don't know if you noticed, but we are in the room that was named Room Mário Soares. And for me, it's very significant because I'm born in a dictatorship. And Mário Soares was one of our democratic fighters, one of those that faced the dictatorship at that time, and with support of international community, was available to help to promote a democracy in my country. So this couldn't be a more inspiring signal for all of us being on this room, the room that is really named Mário Soares. And his example, his history, what he done in my country can be really inspiring for all of you. I hope is a very inspiring person for me. So we will start this debate on parliamentary and local elections as a new challenge and threat for the future of Belarus. I would like to say that I was previously member of OSCE Parliamentarian Assembly, and in that condition, I was electoral observer in the elections of 2012. And as I remember, the international community was always stated about the lack of fulfilling the international standards along of the history of these elections, in Belarus since 1996, I think. So it's a very long and very sad story that worsened in 2020. It was, I think, for me, as I can see from outside, the worsened time. But today, we are here to work and see what we can do together. European Union parties from different ideologies with the parties that are really committed with democracy and European values in Belarus, in promoting these values in Belarus. I think we have a lot of work to do. Yesterday, I was making some notes in my files and with some ideas for what we can do, but before saying me what I think we can do together, I think it's better that we hear our friends on this table because they have a lot to say to us. So, and in order to start with this panel, I will give the floor to Nadia Salavyova in order to hear her. She is from BNF, and we are keen to hear your proposals, your ideas, how to work and how to face this challenge of next elections, because we know what it is.
Okay, thank you so much. My dear friends, I will speak English because mainly the issues that I'm going to cover is just quite really evident for Belarusians who are here, but using this chance to have so many European parliamentarians in this room, I'd like to make the message clear, especially for them. then for 30 years in Belarus we have had the theatrical performances called elections, because there is only one government body, as you know, Lukashenko. That's why we have now really facing civic and political crisis. In 2024, the theatrical performances will turn into a military campaign. And we see how the regime pumps up its security forces, so-called security forces, saying that they are preparing to interfere in the elections from the West, and we need to save the country by all means, and so on and so forth. The same message is broadcast, unfortunately, into the ears and minds of citizens through propaganda every day. What does it mean, and what will happen then? Then we can have really disastrous things. Then activists will be jailed preventively before the elections, not only for days, but also for years. The second, alternative candidates could be allowed just to show, I don't know, only not clear to whom to show, but okay, let it be, to show that there is some kind of democracy in Belarus. However, after the elections, these alternative candidates are likely to be subjected to repressions. The regime will take revenge. That's the challenge for us and threat for the people who are in Belarus. The next, regime has been taking revenge now for 3 years. And here I'm talking about reprisals against relatives and families of activists who had to leave. And the closer to the elections, the more often the reprisals will be. This is lousy and sneaky. Words really fail me to describe. People are unsecured against such techniques, simply inhuman behavior. There is no law now, it declined, absolutely banned, to limit turnout due to changing in election code not so long time ago. Therefore, they will falsify as they want and draw any figures they want. The next, there won't be any independent observers. Essentially, there won't be any observation at all. The threat that we see is really very significant is Russia, because Russia will support its candidates, and Lukashenko is sure to allow them into parliament. That's why in Lukashenko's parliament, there will be pro-Russian organizations that actively promote the ideas of Russian peace. They have already started it. There won't be any polling stations abroad, meaning that hundreds of thousands of Belarusian citizens will be deprived of their right to elect and even to participate in the political process. The names of the members of election commissions are kept secret. It's done on purpose, so these unscrupulous people can falsify without any consequences for them. In 2025, Lukashenko will appoint himself as a head of Belarusian National Assembly, as he created for himself. That's not an elected body, and it has no real power. And in 2025, he will appoint himself as a president of Belarus. So then he will have 2 positions. Then answering your question at the end, then yeah, we have the situation that Belarus is denied in our right of democracy. But we are not going to voluntarily give it up. At the end of February, the beginning of March of 2024, elections to coordinating council, democratic parliament will be held. And the main challenge for us is it's necessary to technically ensure the safety of people in Belarus who want to vote. To do this, in my view, it's necessary that some European organizations and structures who have some experience in this field can technically ensure such kind of security. That's all.
Thank you very much.
Maybe I will add later, or if you have some questions.
Very important remarks facing the next times, and we need to really have these remarks in our mind. And now I will move to my colleague, Vice Chair of Delegation for Relations with Belarus, Karin Karlsbro.
Thank you so much, and thank you for organizing this event, and thank you for sharing your experience and insights. I think it's a very, very important moment for us, and it will help future cooperation to have this kind of important meetings. When I see all of you, it reminds me that between my home city, Stockholm, and Minsk, it depends on which platform or application you ask, but it's less than 1,000 kilometers. Google Maps says it's 836 kilometers between Stockholm and Minsk, where we are neighbors, and that's why it's so painful to follow what's happened in your country. We are so close. We are so close together. And we will never, ever forget what happened a little bit more than 3 years ago when the people went out in the streets in the bravest protests in Europe. This is why we cannot simply dismiss the spectacle that will unfold in Belarus in February, which the regime refers as an election. It may be a spectacle, but hundreds of thousands of individuals play active roles in it, and Belarusian citizens are forced to play along as extras. It is certainly, as we all know, it is not an election. It should not be called an election. It's an act of abuse. And as such, it must be scrutinized and analyzed. But I think the regime does not want us to do so. The possibilities to observe the elections are largely non-existent, as you told us. Human rights defenders, and among them the Nobel laureate, Mr. Ales Bialyatsky, are in prison for, among other crimes, their role in observing elections. Someone once said, in democratic countries, the election result is unknown, but the consequences are known. In authoritarian countries, the election result is predetermined, but the consequences are unknown. The future is unknown, not only to us, but also to the regime. The regime has postponed these elections for several years for some reason. They dared not hold them until now. Why are they so nervous, one can ask? They know the result of the election, but they learned in 2020 that they don't know the consequences. I think that could be a reason. I would like to also take the opportunity when we meet here to encourage you to also have this discussion of what you think about the future of Belarus in the European, the EU context among yourself, because I think there is, as more you learn from outside of your society, you learn that there is a strong civil society, there are political forces with different dreams, views, and that is what democracy is all about. So I'm looking forward to listen to your visions, and I'm sure that you have different ideas, and you should not hesitate to share them. I would like finally to underline how important it is that the EU continue strong sanctions against the regime in Belarus. We have 11 packages of sanctions against Russia and Belarus, but there are lots of room, lots of space for stronger sanctions, broader sanctions. And as we analyze the sanctions efficiency, we also see that there are lots of room for improvement, and that's a homework for us. And it's also our duty to continue to be active and highlight the situation in Belarus in our home countries. And I just want to end my intervention to share what happened some months ago, actually this summer in my home country, Sweden. It was this summer the Nobel Prize Committee told in public that this year they would plan to invite the ambassadors from Belarus, from Russia and Iran to the Nobel Prize big party, the biggest party of the year in Sweden. And it was a shock to listen because the ambassadors of these countries shouldn't go to any parties. They should go to prison. That's where they belong. But it was very, very strong reactions because people in the public opinion knows what's going on in Russia, knows what's going on in Belarus. And you cannot give the Nobel Peace Prize to the Belarusian opposition one year and invite the representatives from the regime the next year. So this decision was changed, and there will be no representatives from this terrorist regime at the party or the celebration. And that means that you have to be active, you have to raise your voice all the time, because I think we have to defend the democratic development in Belarus together. Thank you.
Thank you, Karin. Yes, it's very important. It's very important to have a strong civil society and a strong public opinion also very present on this debate. And now we will move to Yuri Obarevich. The floor is yours.
Дякую великі, шановні присутні. Я думаю, що тут тяжко щось сказати нове про то мероприемство в Беларуси, якое называется выборами. Однако режим ухитрился после 2020 года отсутные выборы зробить вогуле таким дзеянням, якое может быть нагадывая фарс ці театр, але ніяким чином не з'являється виборчою кампанією. І пару слов скажу просто, у чим є різниця, бо починаючи з середини 90-х, виніки ніводних виборів в Білорусі не признавалися міжнародною супольністю, і це було абсолютно обґрунтоване, справедливе рішення. Але, тим не менш, демократичні сили і партії практично кожен раз брали уділ у виборчій кампанії. Ми переслідували свої власні мети, і я переконаний, що ось наша найновша історія вона показує те, що ми мали рацію. Тому що, як би там ні було, виборча кампанія у ті часи – це була можливість комунікувати з населенням. У ситуації тотальної відсутності доступу до державних сродків масової інформації, у ситуації неможливості проводити політичні публічні дебати про відсутність власних депутатів у парламентах і в основному, за рідким виключенням, і у місцевих советах, політична партія, опозиція могла таким чином працювати з населенням, здобувати прихильників, казати про ситуацію в Україні. І виніки 2020 року – це якраз таки шмат, у чим опираються на ту працю, яку ми робили многі десятиліття. І так, стратегія уділу і проведення виборів, які зламали ситуацію, вона показала, що вона слушна. На даний момент все це неможливо. Неможливо проводити навіть некий мінімальний контроль за виборчим процесом, накеровуючи своїх представників у виборчі комісії або у назиральники. Бо це люди, і тут вже ми маємо досвід референдума так званого минулого года, 22 года, калі тыя людзі, якія спрабавалі паўплываць на выбарчы працэс праз назіранне, праз кантроль, яны проста абвяшчаліся ворагамі, затрымлівались і траплялі як мінімум на суткі. Ситуация этого года и наближающейся выборчей кампании таксама адрозніваецца тым, што няма ніводнай зарэгістраванай палітычнай партыі. Это означае не толькі немагчымасць вылучэння кандыдатаў легальным афіцыйным шляхам праз партыйныя паседжання, партыйныя протаколы. Гэта означае яшчэ іншае, што любы чалавек, які будзе прадстаўляць партыю падчас выбарчай кампаніі, ён рызыкуе стаць крымінальным злачынцам і атрымаць рэальны тэрмін у турме, таму што рэжым больш за год таму вёл змены ў выбарчае заканадаўства, якімі крыміналізаваў дзейнасць ад імя незарэгістраванай альбо ліквідаванай арганізацыі. І гэтыя тэрміны ў сённяшніх умовах, разумееце, што будуць цалкам рэальныя. Таму у нас адносна той падзеі, якая адбудзецца 25 лютага у Беларусі, пазіцыя ў палітычных партый, яна супольная, тут няма выключэнняў, мы ўжо сёння, в сённяшніх умовах не можам прызнаць гэтае мерапрыемства выбарамі, несвабоднымі, несправядлівымі. І мы вернемся да этой тэмы пасля 25 лютага і ўжо зможам даць канчатковую адзнаку того, што адбудзецца. Хаця ўжо зараз можна прагназаваць, якой будзе наша пазіцыя. Тым не менш, адзін момант я не магу не закрануць, таму што калегі, я думаю, што калі будуць выступаць, это таксама могуць дапоўніць. То, што в Беларусі па сёння ёсць дастаткова істотная колькасць людзей, якія хацелі бы працягваць далей працаваць у публічным плане, выступаць апанентамі гэтай улады, магчыма, не па тых пытаннях, якія можна крыміналізаваць і за якія непазбежна крымінальная адказнасць, але па пытаннях уладкавання грамадскага жыцця, у нейкіх мясцовай праблематыцы і гэтак далей, гэтак далей. І гэтыя людзі будуць выкарыстоўваць выбарчую кампанію дзеля таго, каб данесці сваю пазіцыю да сваіх суседзяў, да нейкага больш шырокага кола людзей. То есть мы не выключаем, што такія людзі будуць. І пазіцыя, у прыватнасці, нашай партыі, у тым, калі людзі усведамляюць адказнасць удзелу ў гэтай палітычнай кампаніі, каб нейкім чынам таксама ім дапамагчы у дасягненні іх мэтаў. Якая ёсць альтэрнатыва для дэмакратычных сілаў? Тут дзякую маёй калезе, якая ўжо закранула пытанне выбараў у каардынацыйную раду. Я лічу, што мы не маем права сабе дазволіць проста сидзець і назіраць за працэсам, чакаць, што перамены адбудуцца неяк самастойна. Мы, як палітычная партыя, мусім быць актыўнымі ўдзельнікамі гэтых падзеяў, набліжаць перамены, і выбары ў каардынацыйную раду даюць такую пэўную магчымасць. Бо папярэднія скліканні каардынацыйнай рады, першае фармаванне і бягучае, яны адбываліся без шырокага ўдзелу беларускіх выбарцаў. І зараз унутраная дыскусія ўсё ж такі выводзіць нас на тое, што неабходна нейкім чынам гэты ўдзел забяспечыць. Так, усведамляючы все рызыкі, усведамляючы то, што асабліва для людзей з Беларусі гэта будзе ў разы больш рызыкоўна, чым тымі, хто за мяжой. Но, як мінімум, калі мы будзем пашыраць нашу электаральную базу, калі мы будзем выходзіць на новых людзей і праз падобныя мерапрыемствы, праз удзел у выбарах у каардынацыйную раду, я думаю, што гэта будзе ўзмацняць пазіцыю дэмакратычных сілаў. Бо абапірацца можна толькі на падтрымку уласнага народу, калі маеш намеры, жаданне праводзіць нейкую палітыку ў інтарэсах народу. Зараз, апошняе скажу, дыскутуецца пытанне выбарчых сістэмаў па выбарах у каардынацыйную раду, і хіба што большасць актыўных суб'ектаў схіляецца да таго, што это мусяць быць выбары па партыйных альбо па палітычных спісах. То есть это ўжо магчымасць сёння фармавання такого протапарламента і адкаткі механізмаў, якія дазволяць у будучыні нам перайсці да рэальных выбараў, калі перамены ў Беларусі адбудуцца. Дзякую.
Thank you very much. As the inside of the country voices are being shouted. It's very important that we have strong voices outside speaking at these moments, and during elections it will be very important mobilization of international community around these elections. And now we will move to Andrios Kobilios, my dear colleague and co-president of Euronest Parliamentarian Assembly.
Well, thanks a lot, Isabel, and really a pleasure to see a lot of good friends from Belarus, from other parties. I will try to speak very briefly, always when we are, and I will start from the biggest challenge, that when we are talking about such countries like Belarus or Russia, and where so-called, elections are coming, usually I am feeling myself very big problem, because semantically, it would be good not to use even that word. But we are not, still not inventing, how to call that procedure. And I remember always, one Russian philosopher, Ivan Ilyin, who is now very much liked by Putin. He was kicked out from Russia by Bolsheviks, but then he was spending time somewhere in Europe. He liked also Hitler, and he was writing how, Russia should be governed when communists will be gone. And now Putin is reading those books and trying to implement. And Ilyin was saying, elections are not needed in Russia, and multi-party system is not needed, but the procedure each 4 years, where the people would be, will have possibility to show loyalty to great leader, that should be done. And, simply people should come with an open, bulletins, should sign that, yes, I am for Putin and for Lukashenko, and that's the procedure, which we see implemented both in Russia and in Belarus, and this is not elections, We can call it loyalty procedure or whatever, but not elections. So definitely, of course, we can just discuss or advise, but decisions will be made by Belarusian opposition, by political parties, by civil society, how to behave. I mean, definitely, it would be good to have very clear, at least my, advice, my intuition is saying it would be good to have from opposition very clear, view towards those, forthcoming loyalty, procedure. Definitely there is no way to recognize that, this procedure can be called elections. And then, of course, participation in such a procedure is becoming, again, questionable, because if somebody is participating, it looks like that this is a recognition of elections as such. So, how to say very clearly that, those are not elections, and the outcome which will come will be not recognized. That should be done by opposition. If somebody will decide to participate, of course, he participates in some kind of, I don't know how to call it, gymnastics, political gymnastics, which will not. Well, maybe somebody wants to, to have an exercise, but not an outcome. So. That's my view, Of course, and it's good if opposition in a coordinated way will use this opportunity to have some kind of their own procedure, elections of coordination council. I don't know how to make it, technically, but you are so good in IT skills that I think that you will manage to do, such kind of procedure. Now, since there are also some kind of question about new challenge, elections as new challenge and threat to the future of Belarus. And really, I think that this gathering is very important. And I see Anatoly Lebedska here, who was speaking about such a, gathering. I will try to say a few words about, in general, how for me it looks like what we can expect and what we need to prepare ourselves when we're talking about Belarus. Well, first of all, I doubt if, in the nearest future, that Belarus can transform itself back to democracy on its own. I mean, being a country, if we shall look into the country as, individual case. I do not see possibility for revolution of 2020, to be repeated in the nearest future. So I see really the picture much more regional one, like Ukrainian victory in the war against Russia, maybe changes in Russia, and changes in Belarus can happen, more on such kind of regional, let's say, basis, regional approach. So that is where I see that, we need to look into such kind of possibility. And even maybe, I know that this is very sensitive, but I see good progress that Belarusian opposition is starting to speak, to discuss, to cooperate with Ukrainian, political forces. This is very good. I know sensitivities about, to engage or not to engage with Russian liberal opposition. Maybe that will come at some time, because I see that the goals are very similar, really to change the whole region. To change the region and to bring democracy into the whole region. So that is big goal which we need to to have a common views. And definitely when we are speaking here in the European Parliament with Belarusians, and the same where we have conversations with Ukrainians and with Russian liberal opposition, I'm always saying that we need to see not only what can happen and how it will happen, in Belarus or in Russia itself, but we need to see also how we can, be united and effective in what I call in our political battles in the Western Front. I mean, in the West, how we can approach the Western capitals, how we can convince, leaders to see this region, as very important, to see possibility of transformation in the region as most important, geopolitical development on the European continent. And I think that this is such an idea to have this network. I don't know how you call it, 100, whatever. It's very important. And here I see some kind of, I simply maybe just a few words about our experience, what we are doing, trying really to be effective in this Western Front on some other issues. When the war started, we initiated and created a network of parliamentarians, global one, United for Ukraine. Now it's more than 400 parliamentarians from European Parliament, from EU member states, from Ukrainian Parliament, also from US, and so on and so on. And it's really quite an effective instrument for us to speak out about Ukrainian issues. We have very clear issues what we want to discuss, starting from military deliveries, sanctions, and so on and so on, now integration towards EU. And it helps us, both to learn what is happening back in Ukraine, and also to speak out and to try to propose some issues to be discussed either here in European Parliament or in national parliaments. We expanded that network, also created as a separate branch, United for Moldova. So what you are now trying to do, I see very similar, efforts to have some kind of network. And I would be really, I hope that it will be very effective. We can exchange, our experience, what is working, what is, where you need to have some kind of special organizational, efforts. But again, I think that this is very much needed to have something like United for Belarus, for Democratic Belarus, or whatever, how we shall call it. And we need to really not to allow the West, I would call in such a way, not to allow the West to forget Belarus and to forget, future of democratic Belarus.
Yes, indeed. My dear colleague Kobilius, what you told is very important, to build a structure that can support civil society in Belarus, those activists that are inside facing many challenges, and many of them facing very dire conditions in prisons, and of course supporting the political parties that are committed with democratic values and European values in order to fix conditions for a better future in Belarus. Thank you very much. I will only like to say to you very personally that I stand at your side now as an activist and as a soldier for your cause. And now I need to move to another meeting, but my colleague will replace me in the difficult and very challenging moment of questions and answers. So thank you very much, and we stand together for Belarus. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, I think we have some space for just some questions to the audience. So I open the floor if someone wants to take the floor and ask or comment. Please, Mr. Galler.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you to the organizers for having this. And it's so good to see that we have, again, a cross-party event here when it is about Belarus, like we have when it is about Ukraine. I'm the standing rapporteur on Ukraine, so but I've also been involved with many friends from Belarus over the years, so I'm happy to see yet again a broad political consensus when it comes to, first of all, keeping Belarus on the agenda, addressing the challenges, and staying together as the democratic parties here in the European Parliament. When it comes to the practical support, we are aware what is being done as we speak through the endowment on democracy, through other measures that are being taken, also through our budget. And my question is, we had a debate, I think, at some point, and I wonder where we stand, that political refugees from Belarus should profit from the same provision of this directive that is active for Ukraine, so that they can come and stay and, of course, register, but don't have to go through a formal asylum procedure. I think to have equal treatment of Belarusian, so to say, refugees like with those from Ukraine. I don't know where we stand in this regard and whether there are any ongoing activities so far. I would like to know where it stands, and if we are not there yet for you or your people who need to leave, then I wonder what we could actually do. And my question is also what your current assessment is of the cooperation and coordination of the Belarusian opposition, both abroad and inside the country, those who are there, how that interaction works. I would like to hear some more current, perhaps, details. Thank you.
I think I open the floor for one short question or comment. If no one wants to take the floor, I think I pass the floor to you, Mrs. Salika.
Concerning, I'll start maybe with the second question to answer. Then we have to admit and to be aware that, and you know that there is an atmosphere of total fear supported by administrative self-will in Belarus, and the main target for us is just to provide our people with the security for them to be safe there. And of course, it's quite challenging to cooperate and to do some party business and things, to discussions when all our activists of our parties are, of my party, for instance, Belarusian Popular Front, are divided between two countries. The majority of our SOIM members are in Belarus. We even can't do any legal procedures within our party. How can we cooperate with them? Now, even we, people who are here in exile, we are becoming toxic for them to cooperate, to phone, because we subject them to, we are a threat for them to be repressed. Then it's a really challenging and tough situation. Of course, we do our best just to support our activity within our party and not to die. But the first priority for us is to save more people from prison in Belarus. As to, maybe Yuri can add something on the cooperation between us here. And Anatoly, we can also add more. Yeah, and then maybe the first question.
Так, дзякуй. Насамрэч, вельмі добры прыклад супрацоўніцтва мы бачым ось тут, в этой зале, калі 5 партый, якія ўжо цягам, напэўна, апошняга года ці болей маюць паміж сабой, 8 партый, маюць паміж сабой камунікацыйную пляцоўку і штотыдзень сазваніваюцца па важных актуальных пытаннях палітычнага жыцця, абмяркоўваюць, прымаюць рашэнні. Ну, напэўна, в ранейшай гісторыі Беларусі в такіх маштабах падобнага не было. І тут якраз такі вось гэтая пагроза, якія ідуць ад рэжыма, якія ўзмацніліся, яны спрыяюць нашаму большаму аб'яднанню. Але, конечно, тут нельга не закрануць яшчэ іншыя пляцоўкі, якія ёсць у Дэмсілаў. Гэта і офіс Светланы Ціхановскай, і аб'яднаны пераходны кабінет, і каардынацыйная рада. І якраз такі добрым прыкладам з'яўляецца супрацоўніцтва так званай старой ці традыцыйнай апазіцыі, тых структураў, якія былі створаны ўжо, можа быць, не 10, не 20, а там і больш гадоў, там пачатку 90-х, многія з іх, і новых пляцовак дэмакратычных сілаў, якія ўзніклі пасля 2020 года. Вось эта інтэграцыя, яна якраз такі ўзмацняе ўсіх нас. То, пра што хацеў сказаць.
As to the assistance and support of political refugees here in Europe, then for the first and foremost, there should be should be given visas to people who are in Belarus and who are eager to escape the prison and regime here. The procedure of taking these visas should be really easy. And fast. The most there should be fast. Then also here there is also an issue of legalization, because our Belarusian national passports can be expired or are being expired already, and people are living here without any legal Belarusian documents, and they even haven't got the documents that can legalize their attendance and their presence here in Europe. What can we do with this? Office of Svetlana Tikhanovskaya initiated the process of European passport, but as we see, the process is being a little bit slow in recognition, in terms of recognition. But what I think we can ask you to, then all countries of Europe we can ask to do, is to make the process, to give, I don't know, national passports or some IDs for people to have their legal status here and to be recognized here within the countries where we are located now. And this document can be recognized and legal not only in Europe but around the world, like to be equal with European citizens or Polish citizens, Belgian citizens, German citizens, and so on. Have you got the idea?
Thank you so much. Thank you to the panel, and thank you for the questions, and thank you for sharing your insights and experience in this very interesting and important topic. Thank you.
Шановне господарство, усё толькі працягваецца. Я папрасіў бы удзельнікаў наступнай дыскусіі заняць свае месцы. Ігор Барысаў, Ганна Ягорова, Віталь Рымашэўскі, Пятрас ужо побач з намі. У нас вельмі цікавая дыскусія. Попрошу вас заставаться в зале, заставаться с нами. Сёння беларускі дзень у Брусэлі. Гэта толькі адно з мерапрыемстваў. Я спадзяюся, што большасць з вас стануць удзельнікамі і наступных. Наша дыяспара у Брусэлі ладзіць акцыю ў падтрымку палітычных вязняў. Это отбудется с 13:30 до 15:00 ля пляс Люксембург. То я ветліва вас усіх запрашаю, каб мы сёння вытрымалі весь марафон. Так што будзе яшчэ одно мерапрыемства, але пра гэта крыху пазней. Зараз для мяне вялікі гонар, дакладна, мадэраваць вось гэтую дыскусію. Ведаеце, калі б 3-4 гады назад нехта б сказаў, што мы у еўрапейскім парламенце будзем гаварыць пра сяброўства Беларусі ў еўрапейскім звязе, но я проста усміхнуўся бы, сказаў нейкі летуценнік пра гэта кажа. А зараз гэта рэальнасць. Вось наша дыскусія, яна, на мой погляд, мае вельмі такія аптымістычныя моманты. Так, гэта мара, так, гэта тое, пра што мы хацелі б куды ісці, але калі ў чалавека ёсць мара, то ён ідзе. Калі гэтай мары яго няма, то ён застаецца на тым месцы, дзе ён знаходзіцца. Я хачу узгадаць, што тут ёсць прадстаўнікі палітычных партый, якія з пачатку 90-х прасоўвалі еўрапейскія каштоўнасці ў Беларусі. Тэма еўрапейскага выбара, еўрапейскай перспектывы не з'явілася сёння ці учора. Яна была заўсёды, і вось гэта еўрапейскае сэрца білася ў Беларусі. Я хачу, каб мы ўзгадалі нашых з вами аднапартыйцаў, з нашых калегаў, якіх ужо няма ў жывых, з 90-х гадоў, якія пра гэта марылі. І гэта вельмі важна сёння адзначыць, што гэтая тэма была ў нас заўсёды. Але ці быў попыт сусветны, міравы, еўрапейскі на гэта, вось гэта ўжо іншае пытанне, з якім мы будзем разбірацца падчас нашай сённяшняй дыскусіі. Мае суразмоўцы, яны у гэтай тэме. Я прадстаўлю яшчэ раз Ігор Барысаў, лідар беларускай сацыял-дэмакратычнай партыі «Грамада», Віталь Рымашэўскі, сустаршыня беларускай хрысціянскай дэмакратыі, Ганна Егорова, міжнародны сакратар Аб'яднанай грамадзянскай партыі і Пятрас Аўштравічус, які не менш вядомы ў Беларусі. Гэта дакладчык камітэта па міжнародных пытаннях па Беларусі, так скажем, галоўны аўтар апошняй, самай моцнай, на мой погляд, рэзалюцыі, які прыняў увесь еўрапейскі парламент. Так што давайте мы іх усіх павітаем, каб ім было, натхнім іх на добрую дыскусію. Я буду задаваць канкрэтныя пытанні і папрасіў бы нашых спікераў быць максімальна змястоўнымі, але кароткімі, каб у вас застаўся час таксама на дыскусію. Я клапачуся пра вас, тыя, хто ў зале. Першае пытанне хацеў бы задаць Ігару і сфармуляваць яго наступным чынам. Вось якія тры галоўныя пункты трэба зрабіць, выканаць дэмакратычным сілам Беларусі у нашым шляху у еўрапейскі звяз? Падкрэслю, іх можа быць і 10, і 20. Вось самае галоўнае, што мы мусім зрабіць? Мы будзем акцэнтавацца сёння больш на адказы на пытанні, што рабіць. Бо з пытаннем, хто вінаваты, мы разабраліся у папярэдніх дыскусіях. Ігор, калі ласка, вось пастарайцеся сфармуляваць тры найгалоўнейшыя задачы, пункты для дэмакратычных сілаў Беларусі, у тым ліку тых, хто прысутнічае ў тым зале.
Дзякуй, спадар Анатоль, за магчымасць выступіць. Я таксама хацеў бы выказаць падзяку нашым еўрапейскім таварышам, у першую чаргу Йозусу, Алекусу і ўсім тым, хто падтрымаў і ініцыятыву вось гэтага форума 8+100, тому што сапраўды, як спадар Анатоль сказаў, гэта вельмі важная, вельмі сімвалічная рэч для тых, хто лічыць, што будучыня Беларусі яна мусіць быць у складзе Еўрапейскага Саюза. Што трэба? Я лічу, што першае, гэта, конечно, вызначыцца сярод палітычных арганізацый у сваіх прыярытэтах. Яны выступаюць за далучэнне, за інтэграцыю з Еўрапейскім Саюзам, альбо яны все ж таки захоўваюць статус нейтральны і вырашаюць, што можа быць все ж таки нам інтэгравацца не з ЕС, альбо быць нейтральнымі. Гэта першае. По вялікаму рахунку у нас такая супольнасць ёсць, збольшага яна прадстаўлена тут, у гэтай зале, і гэта радуе, таму што сапраўды шмат хто з моманту стварэння палітычнай сістэмы Беларусі, пачынаючы з 91-го года, дэклараваў еўрапейскую накірунак развіцця Беларусі. І сапраўды мы з'явіліся не на пустым месцы, тому што калі пустое месца, то і няма ніякай падтрымкі ў гэтым. Калі казаць па сацыялагічных даследаваннях, то нават зараз ва ўмовах татальных рэпрэсій, атмасферы страху, калі з краіны выехала вялікая колькасць грамадзян, у Беларусі 21%, это паводле професора Вардамацкага, застаецца прыхільнікаў еўраінтэграцыі. Але я мяркую, што іх колькасць значна вышэйшая, таму што не ўсе гатовы ў цяперашніх умовах адказваць шчыра на гэтае пытанне па прычынах бяспекі. Другое, як не дзіўна, але колькасць людзей, якія падтрымліваюць еўраінтэграцыю, яна залежыць ад таго, якія стасункі з Еўрапейскім Саюзам. Чым лепей стасункі з Еўрапейскім Саюзам, тым больш прыхільнікаў еўрапейскай інтэграцыі. Тое ж самае даследаванне професора Вардамацкага, якое яшчэ было некалькі год таму. Тады на піке было каля 50% тых, хто гатовы былі інтэгравацца. Я хочу зазначыць, што гэта ва ўмовах дзейнасці беларускай прапаганды. Па меншай меры, яна не супрадзейнічала гэтаму, але яна і не спрымала, таму што беларускі палітычны курс, ён выбраў свой умоўны шлях. Што, напрыклад, Еўрапейскі Саюз мог бы зрабіць для беларусаў у першую чаргу? Пазней.
Я спікер такі не вельмі прыемны. Першы пункт зразумелі, гэта вызначыцца самі, ідэалагічна, геапалітычна, куды мы ідзём, мы фіксуем, як другі і трэці, калі ласка.
Добре, рихтуємо, значить, адказу.
Я ведаю, што у вас ва ўсіх ёсць прамовы, добра прапісаныя, але мы будзем крышку ісці па сцэнару такому вот.
Другі пункт, і пра што можна гаварыць зараз, в прынцыпе, можна не чакаць, калі надыдзе час, што мы, напрыклад, будзем гатовыя далучацца да Еўрапейскага Саюза і праходзіць гэту працэдуру. Мы павінны разумець, на якім мы ўзроўні знаходзімся. Нам патрэбен аўдыт незалежны, так, каб разумець, дзе нам трэба рабіць змены, якія законы трэба мяняць, у якіх працэнтах гэта. Да? Мы наколькі адпавядаем у еўрапейскай юрыдычнай, напрыклад, сістэме заканадаўчай. Наколькі? Можа быць, атрымаецца так, што мы апераджаем тыя краіны, якія падалі зараз заяўкі на ўступленне Еўрасаюз. І гэта, на маю думку, трэба рабіць зараз, а не чакаць, калі гэта будзе шанец дадзены на пасля. Далей, таксама ў працяг гэтага, трэба ўжо зараз пачынаць працу над праектамі рэформаў, прыводзіць заканадаўства ў адпаведнасці з еўрапейскімі. Дзеля гэтага патрэбныя экспертныя групы, якія б дапамагалі беларусам, якія працуюць над законамі, праектамі законаў, канцэпцыямі, каб потым было гэта вельмі хутка імплементаваць. Ну і апошняе, я лічу, што, в прынцыпе, ўжо надышоў час Святлане Ціхановскай, бо офісу Святланы Ціхановскай, падаць, хай сабе і сімвалічную заяўку на ўступленне ў Беларусі в Еўрапейскі Саюз. Гэта было б таксама вельмі моцна. Я мяркую, што ацэнена ў Беларусі станоўча, таму што Еўрапейскі Саюз, еўрапейская прастора, яна тоесна культурна блізка беларусам. І яна прапановвае вельмі шмат розных бытавых зручных рэчаў, якія людзі з цягам часу здолеюць ацаніць. Дзякуй за ўвагу.
Дзякуй, Ігор. Выдатна справіўся з непростай задачай. Сфармуляваны тры галоўныя накірункі, тры задачы, што мусіць зрабіць дэмакратычная супольнасць. Я папрасіў бы зараз Віталя, на яго думку, як спецыяліста па крытычным адносінам да іншых, сфармуляваць, чаго няма сёння, а магло бы быць ад еўрапейскага звяза, ад еўрапейскай супольнасці ў адносінах да Беларусі, каб больш ангажаваць тых людзей, пра якія гаварыў Ігор. Тры пункты, што еўрапейскі звяз, на погляд прадстаўнікоў дэмакратычнай апазіцыі, мог бы зараз ужо рабіць, не чакаючы там падачы заяўкі і гэтак далей. Калі ласка.
Дорогие сябры, дорогие друзья, во-первых, большое спасибо за эту конференцию. Чего бы мне точно не хотелось, чтобы эта конференция осталась конференцией для нас самих. Нас, белорусских иммигрантов, а мы здесь спикеры все иммигранты, которые живем в Европейском Союзе. Чтобы эта конференция, Анатолий Владимирович, не состоялась для жителей. И я сейчас скажу, что нужно. Я сейчас скажу. Для того, чтобы нам... Почекай, Анатолий Владимирович.
Давайте мы будем поважливо относиться. У нас на кожной панелі, мы праговорили, 2 спікери ад еўрапейскага боку і 2 спікери ад беларускага. То у нас як бы узважено. У нас тут не белорусские спикеры.
Я обґрунтую. У нас тут нет ни одного спикера, который живет в Беларуси. Понимаете? И перед тем, как мы будем говорить о том, что нужно сделать, мне бы хотелось, чтобы мы говорили, что нужно сделать не только для белорусской иммиграции, которая живет в Европейском Союзе, а, к сожалению, и очень часто мы говорим именно об этом. Я лично хочу поблагодарить Европейский Союз, в частности, польское правительство, за то, что оказало поддержку мне. Как иммигранту я вынужден был бежать из Беларуси. А мои коллеги, лидеры партии, которые остались, сидят в тюрьме. Я благодарю литовское правительство за то, что они поддерживают офис Светланы Тихановской и организации в эмиграции, которые работают для Беларуси. Но сегодня я бы хотел поговорить о том, что нужно сделать для тех белорусов, которые остаются в стране. Первое, что мы должны понимать, белорусский народ сегодня – это народ без правительства, и, если хотите, без государства. Как когда-то евреи, до сих пор цыгане и многие другие люди. Народ без государства, мы беженцы не только в странах Европейского Союза, но и те люди, которые остаются внутри страны. Потому что наше правительство нас репрессирует, силовые структуры людей избивают. И второе, что мы должны знать и понимать, большинство белорусских граждан, которые борются с режимом Лукашенко, по-прежнему остаются в стране. Тысячи политзаключенных. Каждый день. Вот мы только что были на Prayer Breakfast, мы там слышали и про Израиль, и про многие другие страны, когда убивают людей. Это страшно. Я не знаю, как передать людям, которые живут здесь, вот это чувство. Но каждый день десятки людей, к десяткам людей, семей приходят в квартиры, вламываются, арестовывают новых, десятки новых политических заключенных. Каждый день люди борются внутри страны. И сейчас я скажу важную вещь. Я не представлял, что когда-нибудь я буду говорить это здесь. Первое, что я хочу сказать для европейских политиков, да, очень много было сделано для белорусской иммиграции, но очень мало для белорусов, которые строятся внутри страны. Много пафосных слов, мало дел. Я никогда не думал, что скажу эти слова, но я прошу сейчас не о помощи. Я прошу, пожалуйста, давайте сделаем что-нибудь вместе, чтобы остановить дискриминацию белорусских граждан со стороны стран Европейского Союза. Остановить дискриминацию белорусских граждан со стороны стран Европейского Союза. Если мы говорим, вот сегодня мы говорим, наше заглавие нашей панели называется «Step by Step», настойчивое. Давайте сделаем так, чтобы эта настойчивость была не только в принятых резолюциях, но и в конкретных шагах, которые помогают Беларуси. Для того, чтобы Беларусь интегрировать в Европейский Союз, нужно сделать 4 простых вещи. Простых, которые от нас зависят, ну, наверное, не так просто их сделать. Первое. Дать возможность белорусам учиться в Европейском Союзе. Дать возможность по-прежнему вернуть, точнее, даже не дать, господа, не дать, вернуть возможность белорусам, которые отняли, которые белорусы лишились по вине режима Лукашенко, по вине непродуманной политики европейских стран, вернуть возможность белорусам путешествовать в страны Европейского Союза, учиться в странах Европейского Союза, работать в странах Европейского Союза и вести бизнес в странах Европейского Союза, потому что независимый белорусский бизнес, который поддерживал революцию, также репрессирован и вынужден уезжать на ремиграцию. У нас была буржуазная национальная революция в 2020 году. И еще одна вещь очень практическая. Наконец-то выделить достаточно денег на поддержку и реабилитацию политических заключенных, членов их семей, а также солдат белорусских, которые воюют за Украину, которые пострадали, которые ранены, лежат в госпитале. И, конечно, Украина в первую очередь поддерживает своих солдат. На реабилитацию этих людей сегодня уже тысячи бывших политзаключенных приезжают в Польшу, у них нет средств даже на психолога, они очень многие с ПТСР. Для Европейского Союза, ну вот для бюджета Европейского Союза это копейки, давайте об этом говорить, это очень практические вещи. И потом уже говорить, конечно, о хороших вещах, о резолюциях, мы его сегодня все примем, поддержим. Мне кажется, что без этих практических шагов Беларусь никогда не будет в Европейском Союзе, потому что сближение государств начинается с сближения народов. Понимаете? Вот здесь мой сидел коллега с Грузии, тоже, вот сидит, да. Вот представьте, сейчас у вас тоже в сторону диктатуры все идет. Представьте, если бы как реакция была, да, чтобы грузинам в ответ Европейский Союз сказал, ну, ваша диктатура, давайте мы вот ограничим визы в Европейский Союз. Только вы, как политик, можете, а вот другие не смогут. Это будет трагедия. Вот, ну, я призываю, спасибо, господин Алексас, спасибо господину Аустраевичу, господин Галлер. Я знаю про ваше открытое сердце. Очень мало сегодня внимания в Беларуси. Это непопулярная тема, вы тратите на эту тему. Давайте вместе думать, как вот эту ситуацию изменить. Говорите, что нам делать с нашей стороны, мы готовы помогать. Спасибо.
Які б можна було б і потрібно було б чаканні ад Європейської зв'язі, я думаю, ми Петрасу якраз дадим на завершэнне, каб ён, магчыма, і адрэагаваў на тое, што было агучана, але пакуль Ганна. Якія, на ваш погляд, Ганна, вот пляцоўкі можна было б развіваць надалей і партыйныя, і палітычныя, магчыма, і грамадскія, каб вось гэтую тэму беларускага выбара, тэму інтэграцыі Беларусі еўрапейскай звяз падтрымоўваць, якія, магчыма, інстытуцыялізацыі можна было б разглядаць у бліжэйшай перспектыве і можна было б ці развіваць ужо існуючыя нейкія пляцоўкі, ці ствараць новыя і нейкі фідбэк вот на перспектыву вот такіх пляцовак як сённяшняя, яна міжпартыйная, яна абсалютна новая. Калі ласка. Да.
Hello, everyone. So, sorry, I will switch to English. And first of all, I would like to thank all of you, the participants, and those who organized this event, because you are right, all my friends, colleagues, speakers, that it's a big lack of attention towards Belarus right now. And we understand why. And we really appreciate that you're here to listen and to participate in the debates and to be open for all those questions. So, of course, Anatoly has changed all our speeches that we initially prepared, but it's even interesting. And I will probably start with some basic points that I would like to mention. And it will be some of starting of the conclusion that let's make Europe attractive again. What I mean that we need to make it attractive for those Belarusians who are in Belarus, in the country. Because we all who are in exile, let's say, in immigration, we really appreciated this help, like me personally and my colleagues. But who are in Belarus, like my parents, like my friends, my family actually, they are feeling like lack of this European perspective. And if we are talking about their small historical background, like our party, one of the oldest party in Belarus with a very strong pro-European orientation from the early beginning. And even in 1995, 1 million people on the back then it was like normal elections in Belarus, supported this European path, voted for us, for United Civil Party. It was another name by then, but still they supported us. And in 2020, Belarusians also showed, on my clear opinion, European perspective and democratic perspective for the country. So you see, so many years passed, and we are in a situation right now that we need to make Europe more attractive once again and to be open for Belarusians. And what can we do? First, as we are representative of their oppositional political parties who already lost official registration in our country, we need to be recognized by you as official partners, and we all need to cooperate and to find a way to have institutionalization in new forms, in cooperation with you, of course. We are really thanks to European parliaments and our friends from different parliamentary groups. But we need to figure out together how our cooperation will look in the nearest future. Secondly, I believe we need to create new ways how to engage Belarusian youth, Belarusians in Belarus, in international or intercultural or educational programs, to open new opportunities. Of course, we can help, and we can also make advices how to choose people who are not cooperating with the government. But we need to have modus programs for young Belarusians, just to keep this clear European perspective. And the last point I need to mention that we need to fight propaganda together, because we are losing this information war with Russia, with Russian propaganda, with Belarusian propaganda. They are showing us that Europe doesn't want Belarusian future. So yes, let's do so. Let's create even the first agreement of the association membership of Belarus in European Union. It will be draft, but it will be laying on the table, and we can show it, we can talk about it, and when Belarus is free and democratic again, one day, once, we can show our people that we are not just sitting and talking, but we are working, and we have draft of legislation already prepared by our teams, by the committees. We have this association membership agreement. It's all done. We just need to correct and adapt. So, thank you.
Дякую. Дякую, Ігор, дякую, Віталь, дякую, Ганна. Сформулювали три пріоритетні задачі для демократичних сил. Три, нават крышку больш Віталь сфармуляваў пунктаў, чаго ёсць чаканне, што не рэалізуецца. Ганна сказала пра больш партыйную аспект і пра інстытуцыялізацыю, дзе могуць быць новыя магчымасці. І якраз у Пятраса погляд з Бруселя на гэтыя чаканні, на гэтую перспектыву, на гэтую крытыку, таму погляд з Бруселя, наколькі эта мара Беларусі ў еўрапейскім звязе, яна рэалістычная, калі ласка, было б важна пачуць фідбэк і погляд з Бруселя. Калі ласка, Пятрас Авштравічус.
Thank you, Anatoly, and good afternoon to everybody. Next to the information what we heard, that will be a public support action on Place Luxembourg at 1:30. I want to inform you that we will make a flash mob here at 12:30 as well, because not everybody can join you at 1:30. So probably after our discussions, Anatoly, we will just line up right here. Photos will be brought to the room by my advisors, and we will have a kind of the social event and political event here as well. Belarus is not a part of the enlargement package 2023, okay? That's paper, a strategic paper of the European Union, published on the 8th of November this year. Belarus is non-existent, not mentioned. And it's a big problem. It's a big problem, all right? So Belarus must transform itself. I am speaking about, of course, not a regime in Minsk, but you and cabinet of Svetlana Tikhanovskaya and the rest. You know, the problem is very simple. Belarus is a geography for Europe, frankly speaking. You like it or not. I will provoke you with some ideas, today. But this geography must be changed to geopolitics, all right? Belarus must transform itself from object to subject. And you are hands, brains, legs, whatever. All parts of the political body of Belarus. Because you represent the part of the Belarusian society which thinks differently and wants to see its future absolutely somewhere else, not next to the coffee table of Lukashenko. And it's not an easy task. It's not an easy task, but it can be done. There have been some hesitation. Let's be frank, okay, on European choice of Belarus. Even 2 years ago, even a year ago. We have to admit this, all right? Not everybody, in Belarus opposition understood that European choice for Belarus is only way to survive. Look, but you have no alternative. Tell me, any alternative, tangible, visible, in which I can believe, you can choose. Not necessarily to push you to the edge. But you have to think critically, all right? Historically critically. What kind of chance of survival, of the cultural identity, future state, democratic and European state you have, if not the European choice? Under the Russian wing? No. We know what the development it would be, to become one more oblast. All right? So, but this hesitation should be overstepped. And, for Brussels to recognize your choice, indeed, we need more and more. Not one discussion, not one visit, not one paper, not one action, It must be systematic, continuous, all right? As a national idea. So that's why my second suggestion for you, if you still dream and you think and you plan whatever to do during next elections, so do it referenda, European referenda. Any elections, I mean, which will be organized in Lukashenko's zoo, you have to do it yourself as a European referenda. You have to do something, not with Lukashenko, but absolutely in different direction, taking absolutely different historical path and choice. So that's why there is no time, okay? No time for thinking, deciding who will be a face, who will be, you know, speaking this or that. You have no time. You have to agree here and now, because tomorrow will be late. Tomorrow will be late. Look, we live under extraordinary times, at times of war. So that's why your great humanity-based calls for business with Belarus, my answer, no. Your call for cooperation, no. Should we revise visa policy? Yes. Because there is a national security issue. Do you want a war which was instigated by Putin and supported by Lukashenko to spread in Europe? In any way, hybrid, direct, do you want? We don't. And we will do whatever it takes, I can tell you absolutely seriously, to prevent and to deter any proxy actions coming from Lukashenko regime. I don't claim that each and every Belarusian citizen is an agent of Lukashenko regime. Not at all. Not at all. And we have many proofs to support this opinion. But to believe that there is no hybrid and any plans to make an impact on national security of European Union and NATO member states, I think would be too naive. Look, I mean, let's shake up our thinking, land on a reality which is absolutely grim today, and to make our actions moving somewhere, not indeed bringing kind of, displeasure or psychological disorder within us. Because any solution will be not easy. Easy solutions are already forgotten. Time for those is over. We're facing absolutely different situations. So that's why Belarus must become a subject with a clear vision. And indeed, those discussions which must base and present Belarus' future as European, I agree. If there is a neutrality aspect, maybe. I mean, there are some neutral European states. Not a problem at all. But it's not an obstacle, I mean, for European integration. So that's why I call on you to be realistic, but at the same time ambitious. And I think we can come together what comes to many, many solutions in this regard. Thank you.
Дякую. Чаго нам не хапіла, гэта часу. Чаго нам не хапіла часу, я гляджу на Йозаса. Нам патрэба падсумоўваць, так? Ну, вот ёсць адчуванне пэўнай незавершанасці, але я гляджу на гадзіннік, гляджу на Йозаса, гляджу на нашы планы. Я хацеў бы сказаць наступнае і пагадзіцца, што час непросты. Я сам асабіста падарожжа, якое не перарываецца, пачалося ў Кіеве, пасля ў Варшаве, учора ў Берліне, сёння ў Брюсселі. І хочу сказаць, што звязвае вось усе гэтыя сталіцы. Там у кожнай сталіцы гаварылі пра Беларусь. І на кожным гэтым мерапрыемстве гаварылі пра еўрапейскі выбар, еўрапейскую перспектыву. Гэта мяне цешыць. Мяне цешыць тое, што ў нас сёння поўная зала, там у пік, я тут палічыў, больш за 110 чалавек у гэтай зале. У нас ёсць багата хто ў онлайне. І мы вот зараз Йозасам падсумуем навогул вынікі. А па еўрапейскаму выбару я скажу так, дзякую вось за вашу і крытыку, што прагучала, і што трэба рабіць, безумоўна. І хочу сказаць, што нейкія крокі ўжо зроблены. Я скажу, што рыхтуецца мемарандум аб падпісанні паміж еўрапейскім парламентам і дэмакратычнымі сіламі Беларусі. Это правовы документ, які б залажыў правовую аснову, на якой была б супраца не толькі гэтай кадэнцыі, гэтага еўрапейскага парламента, а і наступнага. Такая праца ўжо пачалася, я думаю, што яна правільны накірунак, правовую базу. Калі мы кажам пра інстытуцыяналізацыю, то мы можам гаварыць яшчэ і пра стратэгічны дыялог, які зараз вось сёння ў Вашынгтоне, а праз нейкі час будзе вось тут, у Брюсселі. Гэта таксама вельмі важна. Я хочу сказаць пра альянс групаў за дэмакратычную Беларусь, які створаны таксама і з вось удзелам і парламентароў, якія тут прысутнічаюць, у першую чаргу Йозас. У нас 23 парламенты, якія маюць групы за дэмакратычную Беларусь. Это парламенцкае вымярэнне, якое дапаможа нам ісці ў еўрапейскі звяз. Гэта вельмі важна. І тое, што мы сёння робім, гэта таксама партыйнае вымярэнне. Это абсалютна новае. І я, вот гледзячы ўжо па выніку этой дыскусіі, скажу, што яно сябе апраўдвае. Я хочу яшчэ сказаць, што ідэя, якая агучвалася ўжо, гэта стварыць міжнародны фонд падтрымкі палітвязняў, таму што гэта звязана вот з папярэдняй тэмай. Канешне, нам не хапае многіх рэчаў, якія мы прамаўлялі, і было б, канешне, добра, каб і тут у еўрапейскім парламенце быў нейкі пакой, такі інфармацыйны, прадстаўнічасць, можа, беларускіх дэмакратычных партый, каб туды можна было зайсці, узяць нейкія буклеты, каб можна было бачыць бел-чырвона-белы сцяг, а лепш, каб гэты пакой выходзіў на ля-пляц Люксембург, і каб дзесяткі тысяч турыстаў, якія праходзяць, бачылі бел-чырвона-белы і пыталіся потым, а што гэта за сцяг, гуглілі і узнавалі пра Беларусь. Таму вот это толькі нейкія пункты, якія ёсць супольна, каб рухацца у еўрапейскі звяз. Хацелася паговорыць яшчэ вот і пра паглыблены дыялог з нашымі шведскімі партнёрамі, якія злева. Тут як прыклад таксама міжпартыйнай працы, які ёсць як досвед беларуска-шведскі. Хацелася падключыць яшчэ і з Малдовы нашых калег. Это таксама новае. Мы разам можам рухацца наперад. І не выпадкова Святлана Ціхановская узгадала пра Еўропу ад Лісабона да Віцебска, Луганска, Кішынёва і Тбілісі. Гэта вельмі важна. Хачу падзякаваць яшчэ раз за гэтую дыскусію. І, Йозас, відаць, будзем мы завяршаць гэты час. Вялікі дзякуй. Давайте яшчэ падзякуем нашим панелістам. Все, вы свободны. Не будзе. Нема часу.
Dear colleagues, dear friends, indeed, it's closing remarks of our conference. I am very proud that we have possibilities today to discuss this issue with different opinions on different issues, and to being together, showing our unity between the democratic forces of Belarus and European political parties. I think at the first hour plenary we discussed about the political prisoners, and we come to the conclusion that we should fight for release of political prisoners and for strengthening sanctions against the regime, particularly on the basis of human rights violation and political prisoners, and also prosecute the crimes of regime in the International Crime Code, and strengthening our efforts to release all political prisoners, but particularly the leaders of political parties, including Mykola Statkevich, and put us on the high of an agenda in international community. And on the election, we hear the proposal to organize the election for coordination council, and we can't call the event of regime according to the so-called national or local election, but organize, provide the election to the coordination council, and also to keep continue our fight in the Western capitals to keep on the agenda Belarusian issue. On our ambitions to be closer to the Europe, I think it's really very important was said from our friends from different political groups to keep this on the democratic forces agenda, and also to be realistic but ambitious regarding these goals, maybe reforming or acting on daily basis and showing for the Belarusian society that there are only one way to keep the independent and democratic state in the future is the integration to European society, not to looking for other side. This everything, I think, is put on our resolution, cross-party forum of the Belarusian democratic parties, and if you agree, because it was prepared as unanimously with all political parties who are presented here in this forum, we can sign this resolution and to keep the first document from such a conference, and later we will continue, maybe deepening or putting the more precise suggestion and recommendation to the future. If you agree, Anatoly, please continue, and then I will inform about next steps after the closing the conference.
Я хочу коротко сказать на два питання. Що тут і зараз відбулося? Білоруський режим, який він лічить, ажиттєвів похоронну процесію політичних демократичних партій у Білорусі. Ось зараз це був вельми моцний фідбек від політичних партій білоруських і від міжнародної супольності. Ми сьогодні заявили, що поховання буде, але не партій демократичних у Білорусі, а білоруського режиму. І вельми добре, що наша позиція узмоцнена вот такой великой колькостью міжнародних суб'єктів. Я хочу сказати величезне дякую європейським партіям, які вже долучилися і підтримали вот эту резолюцію, про яку сказав Йозас. І вона буде відкрита для підписання, тому що є різні плани, не всі могли долучитися. Але це вельми важливо. Друге, вынік этой конференции, то, что мы створили вот сегодня сталадзейную пляцоўку. Я спадзяюся, что праз год будет другі форум. Магчыма, з новымі удзельнікамі, яшчэ больш шырока, але ён адбудзецца. Тому що вот мы сегодня чули, что нам не хапіло вот реально часу, я приношу пробачэнне, тому што, відаць, многі хацелі яшчэ паўдзельнічаць па кожнай з актуальных дыскусій. Але нам вельмі было важна, каб былі вот гэтыя менавіта 3 тэмы. Не хапіла часу, але мы падумаем, магчыма, паміж вот гэтымі форумамі з вот 8 палітычных партый, што мы можам зрабіць, прапанаваць, можа, нейкія дадатковыя дыскусіі па кожным з гэтых накірункаў. Я думаю, вот паміж гэтымі 2 форумамі мы звяжам нейкай канкрэтнай дзейнасцю. Вот это 2 найважнейшие выники. Ну и что далее я хочу сказать, что у нас есть агульная резолюция форума, про якую сказал Йозас, якая открыта до подписания. Вот я только переписываюсь с нашими украинскими сябрами, партия «Слуга народов», это президента Зеленского, партия «Батьківщина», они говорят, что мы разом с вами, мы подписываемся под этой резолюцией, и мы готовы долучиться до этой пляцовки. Я думаю, это не только будет по позиции наших украинских сябров. І абсолютно переконаний, що вот 100, яку ми брали як планку, воно буде більше європейських партій, які будуть говорити про партійну солідарність разом з нами. Це надзвичайно важливо. І тут Йоза скаже, видать, які наші наступні кроки, але вот агучив Ауштрайвичус Петрас, що він попросив, як я зрозумів, у 13:30 прийти сюди і поудзельнічаць у флешмобі. Хто публічны, то, калі ласка, давайте у 13:30 мы сюди прийдем, а Йозас нам... зараз? Ужо. Бачите, я живу по литовскому часе. Бывает такое. И, конечно, я еще раз просил бы долучиться до акции и попросил бы депутатов Европейского парламента, представников политических партий принять удел в этой акции. Давайте, кто публично сделаем фотокартки, выставим в социальных сетках, как вот эта подея разошлась как мага широко. И что еще? Вот в этот час, ну, прикладно в этот час у Вашингтоне, я про это хочу сказать, хоть это закранае не все там белорусские политические партии. Есть такая организация сусветная IDU, якая объединяет правоцентристов всего свету. И видите, я вот 30 годов у политицы, але я первый раз чую, что номинуются политические партии из Беларуси. Вот у нас привыкли критиковать политические партии увесь час. А там відбувається те, що гонорується Світлана Тихановська як лідерка і 2 політичні партії. Це Об'єднана громадянська партія і партія БНФ. І сьогодні там прогучать слови підтримки у першу чергу Ригора Костусьова і Миколи Козлова, які за кратами. Ригор хворий тяжко, і я думаю, що це вельми важливо. І звертаюся вже до наших інших партнерів. Коли ви можете вот, нешта сказати добре у відносинах до політичних партій, які десятигоддями змагаються за європейський вибір, це треба робити. Це вельми важливо, це морально і психологічно. Дякую величезне усім, але особливо хочу сказати Каспарасу, Ачу Лабей, я хочу, який від соціал-демократичної супольності працював, Галина Фаніченко, ЕПП, Ярослав от консерваторов, великий вам, дякую bardzo. Так, давайте вот вам конкретно, потому что попростее сидеть вот тут, где мы с Йозасом сидим, а есть праца, якую треба весь час робити, вот этих людей мы мусим бачить. Великое дякую вот белорусским удельникам, особливо тим, хто тут, ну, есть люди, які, ну, приехали здалеку, так скажем, дякую им величезне. Коли ласка.
Ще раз дякуємо. Preparing for the photo, and then I would like to invite you all to the reception at the 0th floor. Go down from the elevator in front of this room and to the 0th floor. Thank you.